there is a guy that wants KD to pair up with him, and that would be one Dame Dalla. So Damian Lillard posted this Photoshop picture of himself and Kevin Durant on his Instagram story on Saturday. But then he deleted it. You know, Instagram stories are 24 hours. He deleted it before that 24 hours was up. It was gone by Saturday night.
We had someone tracking that. That's nice.
I think it's 15.
How long has this been up here? Hold on. So there were reports that KD was, quote, distancing himself from the franchise amidst all the things that were happening with Kyrie. So who knows how much distance. Would you understand if KD left the Nets? Courtney, I'll start with you.
Yes. I don't want him to, because I don't want to give anybody, any of the bus chaser people, anybody who says ring chasing, bus riding, whatever it was, I don't want to give those people any more fodder. But I can understand it from Kevin Durant's perspective of thinking, if I'm not in a good spot with this organization right now, which some things have been reported that he and the Nets aren't on great terms, how can I trust that they're going to bring me a running mate that I can be successful with going forward? I'm 34 years old this season. I had a knee injury that cost me 21 games this year. I had an Achilles injury that took me an entire season to come back from a few years ago. He's not getting any younger. So if you see a window, and if it is indeed Portland, because when you talk about someone who needs a fresh start, my goodness, Damian Lillard could certainly use that, and I can't see anywhere else for Dame to go and get that outside of whether they revamp everything in Portland and bring Kevin Durant out there. I don't want to see him go somewhere, PK, but I really could see, I couldn't fault him for doing it if he does.
You know, I'd love to sit and talk to KD about where his head's at from here until the end of his career, because maybe it's not just about winning a championship for him. Maybe it's just about how he wins a championship, you know? Maybe that's the target, because he's won rings. He's got his rings. He's got his money. He's got his pedigree as a championship player and one of the best players of all time. What could be his reason for leaving and going somewhere else? I don't know. You have to ask him that. But I think that, you know, he can go to any other team. He'll be a contending player on a contending team, win a championship possibly. But I think for him, man, he loves the game of basketball. That's the one thing I learned about Kevin Durant watching him play this year, not having the guys around him that he should have around him to win a championship, but watching him go out there and just ball and just play and wanting to dominate and be the difference maker. And you could see he still has that hunger. So to think about him going to another place to win a championship, yeah, that's possible, but it depends on where his head's at and what his goals are. Is my number one goal just to win a championship? Or is it to be on a team where I'm the guy driving the bus, like everybody says, and I want to win like that? Or do I just want to play basketball and play with guys that want to win and be a part of something special? I don't know. Yeah. But he's going to have that choice. That's the luxury of being Kevin Durant.
I'm going to go back to the word that Courtney used earlier called coax.
Oh, you really are?
I've said it a few times.
It's one syllable, 4 letters. It said so much from that standpoint, because it is true that you have to coax your mind what you want to do. And the reason I think Kevin Durant should stay in Brooklyn, are you going to trust the friendship that you have with Kyrie Irving over an organization that has sold its soul for you? That's the key question as far as I'm concerned with Kevin Durant. You can be friends with people and still be on different teams and have a different idea how to go for a championship. If Kyrie Irving is going to opt out of his contract, do a sign and trade, he's basically told you, Kevin Durant, I'm choosing myself over you. And Kevin Durant's going to have to be good with that, whether he wants to or not. So the reason that he's with Brooklyn is because of the friendship. He wanted to have more of a friendlier type player with him than he felt he was not getting with the Golden State Warriors, despite winning 2 championships, like PK said with that basketball team.
He wanted to start his own thing, too.
That's well, he had a chance to do that in Oklahoma City, and he decided to go to the Golden State Warriors. So apparently he thought having my own team was a lot better than being part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, went to the Golden State Warriors. So if you're going to do this now and you say, okay, I'm going to align myself with Kyrie Irving, but Kyrie Irving already has a different mindset, then why are you chasing him around to go to a different team? At that point, you have a chance to do that in Brooklyn. You have to have more trusting organization. Whatever you guys got to talk about in terms of what Brooklyn wants to do in the future with you as a centerpiece of it, then you have to have that conversation if Kyrie Irving decides to leave. And if that's going to be the case, you're right. They're not far away. They won't have a Kyrie Irving, but that's not to say they're going to be a worse basketball team. Collectively, they may be a better basketball team because that kind of distraction is no longer over this franchise. If you're Kevin Durant, you don't have to answer questions. When's Kyrie coming back? When's Kyrie coming back? You don't have to worry about that. this becomes your basketball team. You can align it any way you want because you have an organization that's going to do that, not just on the court, but also from a mental standpoint to make sure everything is copacetic when it comes to Kevin Durant.
Starting over is tough. And do you want to be starting over every couple years if you're Kevin Durant? I mean, this has kind of become a common theme for him. I don't want to see the Brooklyn Nets enter a rebuild because it feels like for the last decade they've been trying to get out of a rebuild, and it feels like we're almost on the cusp of that happening. So if Kyrie Irving leaves, Kevin Durant should stay, build a team with Ben Simmons, get other young core players in there over the next few years, build something that you can be proud of and say, hey, I didn't leave. I won a championship here in spite of Kyrie Irving, the guy that I came to play here with, in spite of him leaving and going on to do whatever he's going to do, because he's somebody else's problem at that point if he doesn't stay.
Yep.
And you brought this up, like, you know, history has repeated itself at a lot of Kyrie Irving stops. Who's to say that this won't happen if he ends up going to the Los Angeles Lakers or to the Los Angeles Clippers, somewhere else?
It's gonna happen.
That's no longer Kevin Durant's problem at that point. As to what PK said, he can just focus on the basketball if that's really what he wants to do.
KD don't care. KD don't care, man. Like, everybody's got to make their decision. He made his decision to leave Golden State, right? Like, listen to me. His decision, why did he go to Golden State in the first place? KD wants to be where he's wanted, right?
Exactly.
Those guys wanted him there because they needed him there to win. You know, people can't forget that. People think about, oh, he went to Golden State and won a championship. No, they wanted him there. They needed him there.
Right, they all came
They
after
recruited
him.
him. They
all
went
came
to
after him.
Exactly. He wants to be where he's needed. You know, I don't think there's going to be any type of emotional feeling with KD if Kyrie leaves or stays. He wants people that play with him to want to play with him, that believe that they can win with him. And that's what drives him, right? That's what gives him that feeling that I want to play, I want to compete. These guys need me, and I need to show up for these guys. So, you know, whether he stays in Brooklyn or decides to go somewhere else, I'm a KD fan. He's going to land on his feet, and he's going to have another opportunity to win a championship. It's just a matter of where he's going to do that.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.